Okay, security. This is one that we again are really dedicated to making sure that access to your data is secure, but also making more and more people from your company the right people to have access to it. So again, we hold true to we don't want to store your data ever. That's one of our things is we want to make sure that you're able to have complete control over that, whether it's in your data lake or your connectors, whatever. We're not storing your data. We're just basically allowing you to access it. So one of the big areas we worked on under the security umbrella is really providing a granular level. And so that means we can go down to a user role. We've introduced something called connector roles that allow us to, again, do this not globally, but you can basically say, hey, on this connector, I'm giving greater access than this other one is maybe more sensitive, and I only want to give a number of people access to this one. Even if they maybe can administrate some of the other ones, they have no business being in this area of data. So I'll talk about that in just a second. And again, I think one of the things that you're going to hear from us more and more is that utilizing teams inside of Popdock is going to really be your friend on how you roll out these new security features. So let me jump in here real quick. If I go back to security now, and I'm just going to pick on this one user today. So two types of roles, right? We have user roles, so we can do these more at, you can kind of think of it at the global or system level, that I might choose to give them access to, administer all the favorites, or maybe it's the general administrator, or again, if I want them to be able to schedule jobs. Or grant access to security, right? I can make them administrator, or you can see I actually made them just a reader. So this person can, add new connectors and delete connectors, but they can't necessarily, do everything. They're not just a full-on administrator. And again, I'll allow them to see the security, but I'm not going to allow them to actually change any of it. So those are some roles you can see that happen, at a higher level. But then you can see all the connectors I have set up inside of here. And so if I just scroll down to the bottom one, you can see there's one thing configured for this. So this send us connector, that a role has been granted, right? They allowed access to, make changes and added things there. They've been given access to the lists. So we can see that they have access to all those things. Actions, they've been given access to these actions and the details, right? In order to drill down to it. So these are all the things that, again, it can be very, very granular and you can be a contributor in one and only a user or reader in another. So that's something that really adds a whole nother level of ensuring that the right people have access to the data. Okay, another really big area is, we've heard from some people, is that while this is a cloud application, they want to make sure that people outside of a specific IP range or something like that can access it. And so we have given you these new features in this release, the capability of creating firewalls and virtual networks. So that allows you to lock down who has access to it. So what can you lock down? Well, you can lock down the application itself. That's kind of where I've been showing you everything in today. Widgets are those things that you might be embedding in other systems. You can lock those down. And you can also lock down the API. So we haven't talked a lot about the API, but that's some of the things that you might be using from our Excel add-in, or again, a developer might be using under Smart Connect. Those are all examples of things that might be using the API. Okay, so what does this look like real quick? I go back to security and let's go into firewalls. You'll see inside of here, these are where I can set firewalls on these particular areas, right? So like I said, a web application or widgets or API. You can even add it for specific widgets. So you can say, hey, this one, I'm allowing some order information out, and I want to lock it down to only this one location or one IP address can see it. So you can do it on a per widget basis, or I'm just going to give you an example of access to the application. So if we look at this right now, if I want to create a brand new firewall, or the firewall for, in this case, for the web application, I can choose which IP addresses. So I'm going to pick some silly ones here today. And I could, if I want, I could say just from there to there, and it would just be one IP address, or I could say 10, and it would basically allow these 10 IP addresses. And I can assign it to specific users, right? I can say this user can only log in from this IP address, or I could say all users have to be behind this. So what might make sense more would be like maybe you have a Chicago office and a New York office and an LA office. You can choose to lock down that IP address and then bundle all of your users inside of there. But you can do it individually, or you can also create a virtual network. So a virtual network, this might be one where you go, okay, I do have a number of offices, and so instead of well, I'll just use one of these ones I already have set up. I can say I've already set up a Fargo virtual network, so I'm going to add that one, and I also am going to add the demo virtual network, or I want to create a brand new one, right? Whatever makes sense. I can keep adding those. So those can be a collection of IP addresses that you don't have to do each time. If I take you back to look at one of those existing ones, the Fargo office, for example, you can see, look, this has a bunch of different ranges of IP addresses in it that might be used. So you can set these up one time and reuse these. And the most important part, right, is making sure that you're locking out people that you don't want to have access to your data. So just another method of security along with all the things that we have in place already.